Hello and welcome. This is Adaptive Planning, the show where we explore how cities can not only survive but actually thrive in a world of constant change. My name is Arda Eldan, and today I want to take you on a journey I like to call Adaptive Planning for an Adaptive Future, a Democratic Utopia. It sounds ambitious, I know, but in the next 15 minutes or so, we are going to unpack what that really means and how our understanding of spaces has evolved, what challenges cities face today, and how we might design places that are not just resilient, but fair, vibrant, and deeply human. The spaces we live in, the streets we walk, the squares we cross, the buildings we enter, they are changing faster than ever before. Sometimes those changes are subtle. A new cafe on the corner, a park renovated, a bike lane added. Other times they are dramatic. Whole neighborhoods redeveloped, industrial zones transformed into luxury districts, or entire city skylines altered in just a decade. And it is not just the physical shape of our cities, it's the very concept of space that's evolving, becoming more complex, more contested, and in many ways more fascinating. So, where have we been? Where are we now? And perhaps most importantly, where are we going? A quick trip through history. Let's rewind. If we look back to the colonial era, the Western view of space was quite straightforward. Something you could measure, divide, and own. The maps from that time are full of straight lines, borders drawn with rulers, neighborhoods neatly labeled for different purposes. Space was a commodity. By the 19th century, the idea of zoning had taken hold. Cities were carefully segmented, housing here, factories there, commerce services somewhere else, all in the name of efficiency. Le Corbusier's Unité de habitation is one of famous example of this thinking. It was designed with an emphasis on air, light, and open space, very modernist and separate, but still rooted in the idea that urban life could be engineered through careful, almost mathematical planning. Then came the postmodern shift. Henri Lefebvre, a French philosopher and sociologist, told us that space isn't just physical. It's produced through our daily routines, our perceptions, our plans, our politics. He talked about lived space, perceived space, and conceived space. Around the time, Jane Jacobs in New York was making her own arguments. She pushed back against rigid planning and championed the messy, diverse, mixed-use neighborhoods where real community life happens. The corner store next to the school, next to the park, next to the bar, that's what she saw as the heartbeat of the city. But his story didn't stop here. In the late 20th century, as industries shut down in many parts of the world, cities began to shrink. Factories closed. Waterhouses sat empty. Whole blocks became vacant. In some places, it felt like the life had drained out of the urban fabric. Then came another shift. Cities began to market themselves, not just as places to live, but as products to be consumed. We saw festivalization, turning city centers into event spaces, and Disneyfication, creating themed, sanitized environments designed to be safe, predictable, and easy to market. These changes often catered to the tourist or affluent newcomers, not necessarily the existing residents. Take Berlin example. Potsdamer Platz and Leipziger Platz were rebuilt with glossy architecture, high-end retail, and carefully curated public spaces. They are impressive, no doubt, but they also raise questions about who those spaces are really for. And then there's privatization. Public infrastructure, once seen as a shared asset, began to be treated as a commodity. Neoliberal policies encouraged cities to compete for investment, branding themselves as entrepreneurial cities. Services that used to be public, water transportation, even parts of the public realm, were handed over to private operators. We started seeing more gated communities, more mega developments led by public-private partnerships, and more inequality in who could access what parts of the city. In Berlin again, we can look at the Amazon Tower project near Warschauer Straße, or the transformation of the zoo area and Checkpoint Charlie. These are spaces that carry deep layers of history, and yet they've been remade in ways that reflect global capital just as much as local needs. I want to continue with the rethinking of the space from those terms. Now, sociologists Knoblauch and Löw offer us a useful lens here. They remind us that space isn't just a stage where life happens, it's an active player. Spatial relations are social relations, and that means they are also power relations. Even without building a single new structure, the way we use and experience space is constantly shifting. And since the early 2000s, one concept has been shaping how we talk about these shifts: resilience. Urban resilience is just about bouncing back from shocks like climate disasters or economic crisis. It's also about adapting socially, culturally, and politically to ongoing change, which bring us to adaptive planning. What is adaptive planning actually? Adaptive planning is about learning from the past to make better decisions for the future. It's about flexibility, designing spaces that can change use over time. It's about inclusivity, making sure the benefits of the city are shared fairly. It's about democracy, giving people a voice in shaping the places they live. The political philosopher David Harvey talks about the right to the city. The right is just about being in a place. It's about having a say in how that place evolves. Adaptive planning also asks us to think about intergenerational fairness, making sure our decisions today don't rob future generations of opportunities. If we can measure change, we can plan for it. If we can plan for it, we can adapt to it. And adaptation is not just a technical matter, it's about trust. Trust between government, private actors, communities, and individuals. Without trust, even the most well-designed plans can fail. So, let's look ahead. What does the future hold? We know some of the big challenges already: climate change, artificial intelligence reshaping economies and our lives, political instability, public health crisis, and yes, even the possibility of war in our land as well. These aren't abstract possibilities. They are already shaping our cities today. Rigid, conventional planning will not be enough. Adaptive planning tells us be flexible. Design spaces that can serve multiple purposes. For instance, make ground floors and building mixed use, as Jen Jacob says. If it means giving up a little efficiency or profitability in the short term, because in the long run, those choices make our cities more vibrant, more resilient, and more human. We have to be more flexible. Now, slowly I am summing up everything in a hopeful way. I'm not going to pretend there's a magic recipe for the perfect city, but I do believe this. If we embrace flexibility, if we commit to sustainability, and if we act together, not just as individuals, but as communities, we can get closer to what I like to call a democratic urban utopia, a place where everyone has a stake in shaping the future. And to borrow a metaphor from an old biblical image, stones and sheep, alone we are vulnerable, but together we are strong. So, thank you for joining me for the last 10 minutes. I'm Arda Eldan, and this has been Adaptive Planning for an Adaptive Future. Until next time, keep imagining better cities.